Good evening from New York. This is Thursday, October 26th, 12 days until the 2006 midterm elections. The only penalty apparent in the Bush administration's purported plan of establishing benchmarks for the government of Iraq, insulting anyone who dares ask what the consequences are of failing to meet those targets. Our fifth story in the countdown, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld telling reporters to just back off when pressed today about the contradictions inherent in its stated policy of deadlines for progress in Iraq, the conflict for which he is responsible, continuing to spiral out of control. In a moment, Fiasco author Thomas Ricks on the rhetoric versus the reality. But we begin tonight with the latest on the ground in Iraq. 4 Marines and a sailor having died today of injuries suffered while fighting in a stronghold of Sunni insurgents, bringing to 96 the number of U.S. troops killed there this month, officially crossing the plateau, the deadliest month of the year, the 3rd deadliest of the entire war. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, the defense secretary on the defensive from the very outset of this afternoon's news conference. Mr. Rumsfeld chafing at the tone of the reporters, the top military civilian also suggesting that any questions raised about the administration's plan to set benchmarks for the Iraqi government are politically motivated.
Well, it's a political season, and everyone's trying to make a little mischief out of this and turn it into a political football and see if we can't get it on the front page of every newspaper and find a little daylight between what the Iraqis say or someone in the United States says or somebody else in the United States says. And, I mean, it is not complicated. You're looking for some sort of a guillotine to come flowing down if some date isn't met. That is not what this is about. This is complicated stuff. It's difficult. We're looking out in the future. No one can predict the future with absolute certainty. So you ought to just back off, take a look at it, relax, understand that it's complicated, it's difficult, that honorable people are working on these things together. There isn't any daylight between them.
But given the record, Mr. Secretary, can you blame us for the tone? Expressing some skepticism?
Well, I know. That's your job. You can express all the skepticism you want.
Benchmark has been laid down in terms of security forces and the like. The Iraqis have been unable to meet them.
That is just false.
You have no
just a minute. That is false. Every time a security benchmark has been laid down, the Iraqis have failed to meet it. Wrong. Just isn't true. And it'd be a shame if people walked out thinking it. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay. Now, why do I say it's wrong? Well, first of all, it has the benefit of being true that it's wrong. The Iraqi Security Force training program that we have laid out has been proceeding in a orderly, reasonable way. When we said that they would handle the bulk of the security for the last election, they did. We were in an outer cordon. They were handling it in the inner cordon. They did a good job. The election took place. I mean, to say that every security, I mean, there's people ranting like that up on the Hill, but that is just wrong to say that. It isn't even close to being true.
Benchmarks in numbers, but not the ability to stand up and take control. It was evidenced here. General Casey said as much in the fight to retake Baghdad. That when the U.S. military called on the Iraqi military to provide forces to assist in that operation, they provided only a small fraction of what is needed.
Okay. Look at it this way. Have there been instances, many instances, when the Iraqi security forces have been able to do precisely what was intended and what was predicted? Answer, yes. Have there been instances where they were not able to do what was predicted and hoped for or intended? Answer, yes. That means your question, your statement, your assertion is flat wrong. You said every security benchmark has been missed. That's not true. They've done a darn good job.
Too precise.
Too precise. It was inaccurate.
But in terms of their ability,
just retract it.
In the terms of their ability to provide for their own security, there are many times when the U.S. has called upon them where they just haven't stood up.
Well, wait a second. There are many times. There are some times. There are some times where they took over something, didn't work, and people had to go back in and help them. No question. And take it back. I've said that from the beginning. That's part of this process. It is not a smooth road. It's a bumpy road. We know that. We've said it repeatedly. There's no surprise to it. But anyone who runs around denigrating the Iraqi security forces and minimizing their capability is making a mistake and doesn't understand the situation.
Are the people of Baghdad safer than they were 6 months ago?
Thank you.